When ProAg Manager is opened for the first time, the main screen displays data from a fictional farming operation. Even though it's easy enough to change it to match reality or delete it altogether, we recommend leaving it as is for future reference while learning to use ProAg Manager. At the very top of the screen is a row of buttons for performing different tasks in ProAg Manager. Holding the mouse pointer over each button gives a brief description of their respective functions. Data Checklist is a guide for retrieving information from a financial source. The accounting software you're already using for entering check register data will probably be able to provide reports to glean this information. This checklist tells you what to retrieve and where to enter it in ProAg Manager. Descriptions is the storehouse for all the ways we measure things, whether it's acres or meters or bushels or grain bins. It will be described here. There are quite a few units and factors already in ProAg Manager, but it's easy to add your own if you don't see what you need. Operation Setup is where the farming operation is set up for the selected year. The farms and fields that are owned or rented for that year are put together here. If you're looking for that profit and loss or break-even price, then this is where that financial info from your accounting software will be entered. If input costs per area are desired, this is where those unit prices and rates are entered. Fortunately, it's easy to copy this data from one year to the next and change only those things that need it. Inputs Apply is a data entry time-saving tool. If a lot of fields have the same applications done on them, those inputs can be entered once here and then copied and pasted into the fields instead of entering the same data over and over. Worksheets is a great multi-purpose tool. It's nice for what-if questions on field inputs. Create lists of different herbicide applications and compare the cost per area. Or enter the area covered in a sprayer batch along with a herbicide list to print out a batch fill sheet to have on hand for loading a sprayer. It's another let your imagination go feature. Reports makes the data entry investment in time all worth it. There is a multitude of reports covering everything from profit and loss to quantities of inputs applied to inventory and storage, and the list goes on and on. All can be viewed on screen and printed out. The Help button opens a menu that lets you choose between opening a PDF file covering all the functions in ProAg Manager, or 2 different reference cards, or browse SquareDAT's YouTube channel. One reference card is an aid for first use of the program, and the other is an aid for using the Contracts and Sales tabs. Just below the toolbar, near the top of the main screen, are the management selectors. They're drop-down boxes displaying the particulars of the current operation, the current year, operator, farm, field, and crop. Selecting any one will display the first item in the list of the selectors following. After your farming operation is set up in the program, these selectors are used to pick the specific field and crop you want to view or enter data into. When you close the program, it will remember the last field and crop you were working with and will open to that same place the next time you use it. Just below the management selectors is a row of tabs for data entry of that particular portion of the business. Inputs, harvest, farm maps, field maps, miscellaneous, contracts, and sales. Each of them can be used or not used independently of the others depending on what you want to keep track of, with one exception. Using the Harvest tab does require a seed input be entered into the Inputs tab. The Inputs tab is where costs, such as seed, fertilizer, and chemicals, are put that are applied to the fields or on the crops. The dollars per area are calculated, as well as the total amount used on the field. The Harvest tab is where crop harvest data is entered. It can be entered as a generic seed variety or by the specific kind planted, depending on how the inputs were entered. The first steps in tracking crop inventory and storage can be done here as well. Farm Maps is simply a placeholder for images from other sources, such as an aerial or soil map image. It can display up to 4 images. The first two, aerial and soil, are tied to the selected farm for all years. The second two are tied to the selected farm for only the year selected, and their labels can be customized. Field Maps is similar to Farm Maps with a few key differences. It can also store up to 4 different images, but they are all tied to the selected field for only the year selected. An example might be a variety planted map or a yield map image. All 4 labels can be customized. The Miscellaneous tab is a fully customizable list for keeping track of miscellaneous information. While the fictional farmer included in the software is using it to keep notes on tractor, equipment, and harvester settings, let your imagination go and use it to keep track of anything you want. Custom list headings are tied to only the selected year and so can be changed from year to year, or can be copied from year to year if desired. The info entered as data is tied to only the field and year selected, but it can be easily copied from field to field if desired. The Contracts tab is designed for contracts on crop sales. A typical use would be keeping a list of forward contracts on grain. It has several useful calculations, including the average price over all contracts. If used with the Sales tab, it will display amounts remaining as contracts are filled. The Sales tab matches well with entering data from grain scale tickets. While it can stand on its own, if used with the Harvest and Contract tabs, it provides another piece to a complete picture of crop inventory, including percent sold and average price. At the very bottom of the screen, the Summary section crunches the numbers from all the financial information, input data, harvest data, and contract and sales data entered. It displays information for each year, operator, farm, field, and crop picked from the selectors at the top of the screen. This concludes our walk around of ProAg Manager. If you're ready to get started using it, then you'll want to watch the video titled ProAg Manager First Use.